My name is Haley.
And my name is Melanie.
We're students at Lake Trail doing the Living History Project. Today's date is January 31st, and we're about to interview you for the Lake Trail Living History Project.
So let's start. Can you tell us your name?
My name is Maureen Glowasky.
Can you spell your last name for us?
Glowasky.
Thank you. So, for agreeing to do this interview with us.
My pleasure.
We're going to ask some questions. If you don't feel comfortable answering any of the questions, that is totally fine if you don't want to.
And you can feel as comfortable to share as much as you want to as well.
Let's start with some simple questions.
Fine with me.
What was an exciting day for you?
An exciting day was probably on Saturday when we could sleep in. I would say my days getting to go in school. When I was about 13, I went to work. I not only babysat, because that's where my extra money came in, but I worked for a tailor. In the Island Rooms, if you know where the Island Rooms are, that's the building beside the bridge where the tattoo shop is now. There was a tailor upstairs. He was Chinese, and his assistant was Native Indian from Campbell River, but she lived in Courtenay. She was a great friend of my grandmother's, and because I excelled in sewing, they asked if I would like to go to work there on Saturdays. That was my big day. And so I spent my Saturdays working, and after school working for Dang Poon, the tailor. And Aggie Karki was the lady that worked there too. They both did not speak very good English. And so quite often I had to interpret for the customers what each one was saying. And someone phoned my mom one day and trying to get a hold of me because she couldn't quite figure out what either Aggie or Dang were saying. And she was flabbergasted when she found out I was. She thought she couldn't figure out how a blonde, blue-eyed girl could be a daughter of a Native Indian and a Chinese man. And then she found out who I was. She was able to figure out what the directions were for the sewing. I worked there for most of all my Saturdays and my after school, if I wasn't babysitting, until I started working at the hospital one summer. And I worked there for the summer in the kitchen, and worked with Sister Jaber and Sister Joanna. They were super good people to work with. And there again, it was doing potatoes. I can't get away from potatoes. They grew potatoes in the front section of the school, where, going up Lake Trail. And that's where we had to help with potatoes when we were younger. We'd come all the way down to our farm to help my grandparents put in their field of potatoes. And then we would be down there again, digging them up, helping them dig them and bag them and that. So when I'm saying potatoes, and on the farm up at Endall Road, of course, there was the field cleared and more potatoes put in. Well, it was potatoes, and my dad ended up with another 300 acres up Tyee Valley Road. Guess what? Started with 1 acre of potatoes, ended up with 30 acres of potatoes, and guess what? I was there always with potatoes, so needless to say, I'm not growing another potato. Yeah. Oh, some of the potatoes up on Tyee Valley Road was that big. Oh, they were like cordwood. You could just pick them up like that. Well, it was swamp. It was peat soil, and it was beautiful potatoes. They had the best potatoes in the area. It was a quiet neighborhood and very dark. There was no street lights, and there was gravel. And then my grandparents did have peacocks. And have you ever heard of peacocks yell? Well, walking up there in the dark, and a peacock yells, and it sounds like somebody yelling help. Will you run like heck? Scared you silly. And some of the people I still talk to now remember the peacocks. The one I remember most about my grandparents' place at the ranch where the school is. Here again, it's potatoes. There was the root house that was under the garage, and every Easter, around Easter, April, we had to sort potatoes. And you go into a root cellar where there's potatoes. And some of them were rotten, so, we had no gloves. We had a little coal oil lamp and a couple of buckets. And Marguerite, my older sister, and I, we had to do sort the potatoes. Of course, the rotten ones went there, and the ones to plant would go in another bucket. And so this was our job. But the root cellar overlooked the flatlands, or the fields, the play fields now. And here we are, sorting those stinky potatoes, and we could look down the fields and watch all these young girls and people walking through with nice bouquets of curly lilies. And we had to be in there sorting potatoes. That I do remember big time there.
How do you feel about everything changing now?
Oh, I think it's so. Kids haven't got the freedom that we had. We were free to do what we want. We could, even like I told you about going up Arden Road, up to go under the Arden Creek Bridge. I was only 4 years old when we did that. And we barefoot, but there was no scared of us being picked up at all. My parents didn't have to worry about us. We come home for dinner. When we got hungry, we came home. So the freedom we had was great. My dad was a trapper. I should tell you that. My dad was a trapper, and I remember him in the shed at the back of this place with his pelts and tacking them up on the board, the beaver pelts and that, and playing on the beaver pelts. They stunk. They weren't the best smelling things, but man, that was so nice and cozy and that, just being on them. And he liked his trapping. Trees on both sides. It was nice walking down along here, and we'd have the dog and the cat follow us, and then we'd sit on the top of the hill there and look down, watch the cars down the road, and you could look straight across over to the Ryan Road and watch the traffic from there, and then walk through the garbage dump, come down through there and back up through into here, and before any development. And Courtney's a great place to live. We just keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
There's 5 generations of us here at one time. My grandmother to my great-granddaughter. And 4 of that generation born in Courtney, and the 5th one was in Victoria.
Mm.
So that's a long time. Yeah. It was a beautiful spot here when we first moved in. It was trees all around us, and but that's when the growth is more that we see.
Yeah.
You got to move away from someplace to come back and see the difference.